I just got back from Governor Newsom's press conference about what California is doing to respond to these Texas maps. Every day I feel like there's something different. Can you tell us what's happening today with you guys?
We're still here in Illinois fighting this map, which is going to be the worst map Texas has seen since the 1960s. California is moving forward with its proposition where the people are going to have to decide whether there's a one-time exception to their independent commission in response to what Texas is doing. So the people of California are really doing a tremendous service to the nation and offsetting what Texas is doing.
Yeah, I mean, democracy could be in some big trouble. Is there anything that you think people should understand about this moment and how critical it is?
Well, people need to understand, how dark this map really is. It is really sending us to a place that I don't think any of us in our lifetimes have been. When you put it in a historical context in terms of the level of segregation, the racial segregation that's inherent in this map, it's scary. When you look at Texas's population, it's actually one of the more diverse in the nation. On a percentage basis, there's more Latinos in Texas than there are in California. On a numerical basis, there's more black residents than there are in the state of Georgia, which currently has the highest number of black-controlled members of Congress, where black residents have the majority and can elect a member of Congress. So Texas has a pretty diverse population overall. But what the Republicans are trying to do does not at all reflect the population of the state of Texas. So if all things were equal, and if this map was somewhat fair, you would see about 15 seats where white residents in Texas would have a fair opportunity to elect their representative, and you'd see about 15 seats where Latino communities could elect their representative. But this map is so skewed that 26 out of the 38 seats in Congress will be determined where white residents make up the majority. Those are the lines that Republicans have drawn. And as big as Texas is, I live on the western side of Texas. It's a 14-hour drive all the way to the eastern border. But somehow, even though white residents only make up 40% of the population, Republicans figured out a way where they will represent 90% of them. So you have a case where Republicans are almost becoming the exclusive representatives of just white residents in Texas. Why don't they want to represent Hispanic residents at 90%? Why don't they want to represent 90% of black residents? Well, because they deliberately are choosing not to. And the scary part in all this is, what are the implications of this? What's going to happen if we think our politics are bad now and the politics are really divisive now? What's going to happen when the government is setting up the rules where they can win all these elections and they only need 40% of the population to do it? So what's going to happen when they're not accountable to the majority, to 60% of the state's population? They can win all the elections they need to just using 40% of the population, and it just happens to be that that's a white majority population. So black and Latinos are essentially left out of the political process. That's where Republicans are taking us with this map.
It's such an egregious display of we don't want anybody who doesn't look like us to have political power. And it is something that I talk about a lot as a white woman, because we need to stop pretending like this is okay. We need to stop enabling this.
It doesn't matter if you're white, black, Latino, Republican, or Democrat. Every American should be outraged at what Texas is trying to do and the road that they're taking us on in terms of a historical context, where Texas is taking us. Again, this is going to be the worst map that Texas has ever seen since the 1960s. It's blatantly unconstitutional. It's blatantly against the Voting Rights Act. But they're doing it anyways because Donald Trump asked for 5 additional members of Congress, and Republicans are like, okay, whatever we have to do, even if it discriminates against the majority of Texas' population in such a way that we haven't seen since the 1960s. Today, a lot of Democrats met with union leaders throughout the state, and we met with leaders from SEIU, AFL-CIO, and so this not only affects, this map is not only racially segregated, this map is also segregated in terms of class. Under this map, Republicans are also representing about 80 to 90% of the highest earners in the state of Texas. So what are going to be the policy implications when the government has structured the lines where it only has to respond, or it's only going to be accountable to the highest earners in Texas making 6-figure incomes, whereas the working class citizens are left out of the political process? So it's not just about race, it's also about working class Americans, working class Texans who aren't going to have anywhere near an equal voice in the political process. And I think that's what all Americans should be appalled about, is that Texas is trying to set up a government where it is only accountable to the few. It is held accountable to one particular race. It is held to one particular class that happens to be the highest earners. What are going to be the implications for the rest of us who are left out of the political process? Because the Texas government isn't going to feel accountable to us. It's not going to feel accountable to the majority of the state. And what kind of policies are they going to pass in the future when they feel they don't have to answer to the majority of us?
And that is really, it is dark, like you said. This is the darkest timeline right now. Do you guys have any plans of do you know when you're going to go back? Do you know what's coming next? Or are you just kind of taking this day by day?
Well, ever since we got here, we have been trying to make the most of every day to inform all Americans about what's in this map. Republicans were trying to pass this map without any public input. And honestly, if they had their way, this thing would have passed in a matter of days. They were holding hearings before the map was even released to the public. And so they were hoping to rush this through. So, we have been trying to inform as many people as possible. Unfortunately, time is on Republican side. If they are so dead set on getting this map through, they're going to bend whatever rules they need to bend in order to make it happen. Clearly, if they don't care about the level of segregation that they're creating, even if it looks like something out of the 1960s, they're going to bend whatever rule they need to get this through the finish line. So, if Democrats were going to stop this, we would probably have to stay here through Thanksgiving. And so, the next best thing that we're going to try to do also is, we're going to try to defeat this in the courts. I think Republicans know that this is unconstitutional. It's so bad, they have to know it's unconstitutional. But again, they don't care. They're trying to give President Trump that 2-year temporary bump in power. But, our next best hope is the courts. And even though they're trending conservative, there still have been signs of hope that even the worst maps that some of the states like Louisiana and Alabama have been trying to pass have been overturned. And so, we hope that by making, this case and by demonstrating just how bad this map is and just how racially segregated it is, that the courts will overturn it. We don't want Texas to have 2 years of additional power by cheating and stealing these maps from Black and Hispanic communities in the state. So we hope that the courts take this up quickly. We're going to make this case as soon as Republicans try to pass this map. But it's going to take all of us to not let Republicans get away with this or slide it under the rug and just pretend that it's just some regular old map. This is not just some ordinary power grab. This isn't just politics as usual. This isn't just one political party in power just getting as many seats as it can. No, this is very segregationist. This is, again, something that we haven't seen since the 1960s. And Texas Hispanics will become the most underrepresented racial and ethnic group in America by far. Right now, that designation goes to Black residents in Mississippi who are, still underrepresented at the federal level. But Texas Hispanics will be far more underrepresented to a level that we haven't seen since the 1960s.
This has just been dystopian to watch. I mean, I can't even believe that this is happening in the United States of America, but here we are. Other than obviously keeping eyes on this, making sure we stay up to date with what you all are doing, and of course what Trump is doing and asking for, how can we support you?
Well, it's been the response has been amazing, and the fact that so many people have tuned into this to learn the details of this map has been incredible, because our biggest concern was that this was going to pass and Republicans were going to get it through and nobody was going to notice. And so it's been so incredibly positive to see that people are tuning in and learning about the details of this map. So the more that we can do this before that Republicans try to pass this on the floor, I think the more outrage there is, it's going to be better, and it's going to expose exactly what they're trying to do. But over the long term, people need to understand Texas has been doing this for 30 years. Republicans like Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton and all these guys, they are scared because they know that they are passing policies that are increasingly unpopular, and the only way they can stay in power is if they sideline as many people as possible. So over the last 30 years, they have systematically passed voting laws that make it more difficult to vote. It makes it so difficult to register to vote, makes it difficult to vote by mail. I mean, there are so many rules in Texas when it comes to voting. It is one of the most difficult states to vote in. That is how Republicans stay in power for so long. By changing the rules constantly and by narrowing the number of people who can vote, and in this case, manipulating the lines so that the numbers don't matter. That's how Republicans have stayed in power. The consequence of that is that we have millions of Texans who have been stuck in these districts where they feel like their vote doesn't matter. And they get frustrated at both Republicans and Democrats because the government has stuck them in a district where, they feel powerless and they feel like, well, it doesn't matter who we vote for. The system never changes. Well, yeah, it's because the government puts you in a district so you can feel that way. And over the years, you have generations of Texans who feel like their vote doesn't matter. So it's going to take a national effort because clearly what happens in Texas is affecting the rest of the nation. So moving forward, I hope that the nation has all of its eyes on Texas, not just right now, but when there are elections, we need to make sure that these communities who have become accustomed to sitting on the sidelines get out and vote, that they feel empowered, and they need to know that their collective voice will make a difference. We can elect a new governor. They may be cheating when it comes to Congress and to the state legislature, but when it comes to governor and other positions like senator, we can make a difference for statewide office. But again, so many people have been sidelined for so long, it's going to take a big national push to change that. So I hope the rest of the country now focuses on Texas. I hope they've learned a little bit more about the state and just how diverse it is, and that it's going to take a national effort to really mobilize the state. We can't just leave it up to the people inside Texas's borders to make a difference. We need the whole nation to come and help the state.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're really busy.
No. Hey, we can't thank you enough for raising awareness about this. So honestly, it's meant a lot to us that so much of the nation has cared about this. And so it's really inspiring to see all that. And it's going to take, honestly, it's this type of collaboration that's going to, we're going to need this moving forward. That's the only way that we're going to create change. And I hope that all of us have learned something through this process, that we're going to work together to make a difference.
I mean, we're really going to need it. Yeah.